All right, so here we are back, not live. Once upon a time, I was sitting with you, Marcella, in a coffee shop that was a little bit louder back in the days when we would crowd into coffee shops. But since we can't, I'm so happy to have you here and to have this conversation and to record this conversation so that we can share it with people who I know are going to be so excited, so happy, as excited as I am that you have a new kind of service and class and support that you are offering to not just Philadelphia families, but Philly and beyond. So welcome back. And can you let everyone know sort of a little bit about this newer service that you're offering? And I'm especially interested to know what was it like? How did you discover that there was this need? What compelled you to want to um, pivot and add this new sort of this new area of expertise to what you have to offer.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, for having me again. I'm so excited to talk with you. Well, talk with you in general, but
Mhm.
about this because I feel really passionate about it. So, as a birth and postpartum doula, specifically a postpartum doula working with clients in their home and as they navigate breastfeeding and their baby's sleep patterns or lack of. I noticed that they were feeling a lot of pressure to do things maybe they were uncomfortable with, but they thought were the right thing to do and that they should do it anyway, even though it didn't feel right from a parental standpoint. So that kind of encouraged me to, as much as a mother, my gut instinct was you're doing all the right things, you're doing everything you should be doing. You're nursing your baby, your baby's sleeping on you, that skin to skin contact, that's great for both you and baby hormonally. It regulates your baby's temperature. That bonding is just amazing for the future and for your relationship. But as much as I would tell people these things, there was still kind of like something little in their head that said that this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, even though it feels right and okay. So I felt the need to search for something different to educate people on the topic of sleep. Specific for me was newborn sleep at the time, but now I feel like there's so much, and I've learned so much into toddlerhood with sleep. And I wish I knew that when my kids were little,
Yeah.
actually, because I feel like it would have been really helpful for me. Um, but yeah, so I looked far and wide, and I found a lot of sleep trainers and programs for sleep trainers, but that is not something that I wanted to do at all. I believe every family should do what works for them and what's best for them. I didn't feel in my heart as a mother or as a doula that talking to people about their new families that sleep training is the best option, and that's just my personal opinion. And I wanted to find something different, and I knew that, like I said, I know that there's the right way is listening to your instincts. But I searched and I found the someone who teaches courses in baby led sleep, it's called, and that's the technical name for it, and it's copyrighted. And I took a course. She's in Canada, and she developed this baby led sleep and well-being specialist certification. And her research is like very science based, and through many different people who did lots of research on newborns and children, and it is focused on attachment specifically. So at the heart of the approach of baby-led sleep is attachment, is the focus on the relationship with parent and child. And I know a lot of parents, they're seeking that independence, specifically independent sleep with a baby. And when is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? How long are they going to sleep? When can they sleep away from me? And the short answer is that independent sleep can't be taught. So, from a science perspective, when we talk about sleep training, it's all about teaching this independent sleep. where it really is not something that can be taught. It has to be like grown and developed.
Mhm.
And that comes from a dependent relationship with a caregiver. And
Mhm.
generally, that's a parent or both parents, or it could be parents plus a nanny or plus someone at daycare or, grandmom or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be just mom, dad. It could be, anyone, but at birth, generally that's the birth parent, right away, that baby's skin to skin with right away, and all that um, makes, as you know, as a doula, like that's speaks so much, that skin to skin contact right from birth. At the heart of what I do as a baby led sleep coach is encouraging that healthy attachment that will then encourage baby as they develop, when they're ready, to then, when mom leaves the room, to not cry, you know.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to. Now, when I talk with someone one on one, I really ask a lot of questions to see where they're at with their relationship. Because if we're talking about, say, a 1 year old, and your 1 year old is screaming because you're leaving the room and you want that independent sleep, they're obviously not ready for that, and there's likely a reason for that. So what I would encourage is, throughout the day, chunks of time that you can give to your little one. And generally, of course, this takes a lot of time. It's not an overnight. So when training like websites say 14 days or something like that, and your baby will sleep 12 hours and in the crib by themselves. I wonder, are parents thinking about what's at stake here when they do that? Because no one can guarantee really what each individual unique child can or can't do, or are willing to do.
Mhm.
So that's the real difference there. I can't guarantee you that your baby's going to sleep through the night at any point, honestly. But what I can do is help you. If you're contacting me and you have an infant, then the support is really different. I'm more so educating you on what's normal at each stage during that time. And then, of course, tweaking things like having you pay attention to your baby's rhythms. And so then you can have more predictability throughout your day. How your baby naps best, so you can get those naps in. Because I know that, that's something that parents are like, I want to make sure that this is happening. And it may not happen independently for, a 2 hour nap or something like that. That's something that likely won't happen with a lot of babies. You want to, I'm helping you to understand what your baby needs, and that's emotional support from you,
Mhm.
especially from the infant standpoint. When baby's around 9 months old or so is where I'm definitely willing to help you make parent-led changes, and that could mean that brings tears. Now that's not we're that tears are okay, like futility is okay, and not everyone. We all know that, like, we can't get everything we want in life,
Yeah.
so understanding that is a good thing. And so when we're talking about your baby becoming older and reaching toddlerhood, then it's completely different. And when you decide maybe that we're not nursing at 11 p.m., every night, and we have a 9 month old, that's completely reasonable. It may bring on tears, and it likely will if your baby's used to that. But I'm trying to help you gain tools to then meet your child's emotions with other things without nursing them at this time, if that's what you decide it works for your family.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a little long-winded,
No,
Elizabeth.
I love it. It's good information. So we're going deep, but some of the words that you're using, I can think back of my own experiences with my first two kids. I remember with my first being in a state of tears because she was so tiny, and I thought the right thing to do was to let her cry. The advice I was given was to let her cry it out as a teeny little, I think like 5 or 6 week old baby. And if someone had just said to me, like, this is so normal for her to need to touch you to sleep. She's been inside of you for her whole existence until a few weeks ago. And then I another thing I remember is my son who was my colicky, very, very difficult. I thank God he's the kid that like falls asleep the best and the easiest now, but you never would have thought so because it was such a difficult first 6 months of life with him. And when I finally realized that his need was to be able to fall asleep and stay asleep touching me, and I could take a nap if I stayed with him for 45 minutes and he could like rouse a little 45 minutes and move and his body know that my body was there, then he would go into a more restful sleep. And I discovered podcasts and I like found like all these ways that I could enjoy that time laying in the bed with him instead of just resenting that he wouldn't sleep the way that I thought other kids his age should sleep. And I love, the word attachment that you're using and the word, rhythm and like and noticing your baby's rhythms and letting them lead. Um it makes so much sense. There's so much in us that tells us that this is the way that feels right. But it's very countercultural to our very,
Mhm.
like, we have these sort of agendas and milestones and ways that we think that our babies need to be. And we have a work environment that a lot of parents are looking at going back to work at 16 weeks,
Yeah.
sometimes 12 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, and so there's this desperation of, "I have to make this baby sleep because I have to go to work," and so I you are doing such good and important work by helping to normalize what we expect babies to do, and I'm so excited to send people your way, specifically people that are in, my class where I teach postpartum self-care, breastfeeding, and infant care in 3 hours. 3 hours for those huge topics of everything for the first 6 weeks of your baby's life. So how much do you think we get to talk about infant sleep? All
Yeah.
I say is, like, your baby's the boss for the first 6 weeks. Please don't try to do anything to change them in the
Yeah.
first 6 weeks. But now I can say asterisk, Marcella has these great services. So tell us a little about specifically because you have some sort of on-demand mini classes, you have individual consultations, you have some live webinars happening. So can you fill in some details for people that are like their curiosity is really piqued by this and they want more?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I do one-on-one support and that it can be anything. And I do a full intake for it's because it is the whole family. It's not just a baby and about them. It's about the whole family. So I do a full intake and kind of review like so many things about the parents and the child, depending on age. And I will, even with an hourly call, I kind of review so much about their daily routines and things like that. And so an hourly call all the way up to a month of support if someone um, would like a lot of support. And during that support, we talk multiple times through Zoom or a call or whatever is convenient for them. And we have email support, text support that goes along with that within different packages. And then right now, I have a 90-minute normal infant sleep course that's live. That's coming up on February 8th at 5 to 6:30. And I'm doing that. I did that last month, and I'm trying to do that every month. So it's 90 minutes and a lot of information that talks about expectations, like realistic expectations, Western culture, like you touched on, Elizabeth, because it really is a lot of pressure on families, just our culture and, the culture of, you're teaching your child to be independent right from the start and, you know, um, drowsy but awake culture, all these things that, at some point we can get there, but that's not happening right after you give birth. And, for at least a few months, so many things are not in your control at all. I mean, there's a few things, of course, that I touch on that you can implement in order to
Mhm.
have a little bit of control over your days and nights. But at the infant stage, it's likely not going to it's like you said, your baby's the boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we talk a lot about just what's normal in the first it's 0 to 3 months. That's what that class is geared toward. So that's for expectant people or new parents, of course. And then right now I have a sleep progressions course on my website that's pre-recorded videos, handouts that are helpful, and links to different places that can be helpful for parents going through those sleep progressions at 4 and 6 months specifically. And I say sleep progressions
Yeah.
instead of regressions because, they are more commonly known as regressions, because it looks like your baby is regressing, and maybe not sleeping like they did right before that time. But in fact, they're growing so much and it's impacting them and they're irritable due to that. They want to practice all these new skills and they need the opportunity to do that. Of course, they need sleep as well. And usually you notice less sleep is happening during these times. So helping them to get more sleep during that time, helping them to get the feeding in that they need, because during these times, a lot of babies are protesting nursing during like the 4 and 6 month sleep progression. So helping them get those calories in so you're not awake all night. So it still has to happen. So if your baby's protesting nursing throughout the day, then it totally makes sense that they're up all night wanting to nurse. So kind of devising ways to get in all the things that are necessary for a baby, especially during those times of growth, that they need more support from you in lots of different ways, practically and emotionally too. So I have that, and I'm also coming out with some more of those little mini courses. I like to say on different topics.
Yeah.
So I want a lot. I want some input too. So if
Yeah.
anybody hears like if you go on Instagram specifically, I've just actually put in my stories asking people like, what do you want to hear about? To be honest, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to kind of address whatever parents are going through, because I want to be as helpful as possible and come up with more webinars that are helpful for new parents or parents that have toddlers or older babies as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
so
that, just that little tweak of like that turning it upside down to take a word like regression that just sounds like, oh, I have these expectations that it's going to be terrible. And um to turn around and call it a progression. It's just so helpful to change that vocabulary. I like wanted to, the first time I read that on social media, I wanted to like get up and cheer. I was like, this is
oh,
brilliant. It's such a great way to frame it. Is there anything else you can think of that there's words that you've in your training or just in as you've begun to support people in this way that you found really helpful positive words to replace maybe some of the other words like you talked about, we have um, sleep coaching rather than sleep training. What else are some of those just little tweaks of the different way that you wish people would think about sleep and attachment parenting?
yeah. So there's a lot of emphasis on self-soothing. I
Hmm.
noticed, that's a big one, just like independent sleep. And so a lot of what I try and teach people is instead of the self-soothing that honestly is for infants and a lot of babies, that's not really possible. But instead to then put an emphasis on that your baby is in need of co-regulating with you.
Mm,
So, I feel like that sounds definitely more positive than,
yeah,
you know, requiring your baby to self-soothe or devising plans so they will. Instead, realizing that your energy and what you put into being a parent, with your child and supporting their emotions, it's kind of like a domino effect,
yeah,
and they will respond to that. And just like I talked a little bit, I don't know if we were recording at the time, but um that if you leave the room, say hypothetically with your 6 month old, and you want them to be sleeping in the crib, and they start crying, of course they're crying for you, they're not used to that. But if you put in the work and get your baby used to the crib throughout the day, and this takes time, of course,
yeah,
but and putting in more time with your child throughout the day, playing with them, reading to them, singing to them, not looking at sleep times as as a negative thing for you. Because so if it stems from a place of frustration for you and stress, your baby will sense that.
Yeah.
And because your baby is wired to co-regulate with you at
Yeah.
that time. So, while the self-soothing will come, if you put in the time with your baby and you manage your emotions, then that will come organically, and of course, adding in, I can go on and on about sleep associations and things like that, but you have control over that too. So with challenges like your baby, you wanting your baby to sleep in the crib, if you're playing with your baby in the crib throughout the day, maybe, when you're putting away laundry in their room, in their nursery or something like that, and you kind of have this positive association with the crib over time, of course, like throughout the day for a few weeks before you start trying for your baby to sleep in the crib, even at one nap time, then your baby will be more willing to then settle down. And even if it takes support from you, it will be less and less the more that the crib becomes an association with sleep and a positive one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of went off again.
No, it's just because you're a wealth of information and it's hard to like hold back. But I do want people to have to like actually reach out to you one on one or take one of these classes so they can get the full, the full effect of these especially the sort of customized approach that you're going to be able to give someone who reaches out to you for that one-on-one consultation. So just so that we're sure, because I think probably from the last time I talked to you when you were focused more so on the doula work, I think you've updated your social media handles to reflect and your website to reflect. So can you tell us, I'm going to write it down also so I have it all right, but let everybody know where they can find you on social media, your website, with your new expanded services.
Yeah, so I was previously just born with love birth, and now I just added and sleep. So on social media, I'm born with love birth and sleep. And my website, you can still find me at bornwithlovebirth.com, but I also can be found at bornwithlovesleep.com at this time. So yeah, that not much has changed besides I just tried to tweak things to reflect this addition to what I do.
Awesome. Cool. So, well, I'm looking forward to sending everyone that I can your way. And yeah, I think probably one of the best things, if it's not clear already, like yes, people could take the class postpartum, or I'm sorry, prenatally, like when they're thinking about sleep and they're feeling overwhelmed at the prospect of like what's it going to be like when I have a baby and all I ever hear is like, well, sleep now because you're never going to sleep again. So that, I can see your class being an encouragement then. I can see like with a new baby, but especially these one-on-one consultations when you're in the thick of it, to have the opportunity to have an expert coach you and create plans and just little tweaks that fit in your life and your family. It's just such an awesome resource. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And I have a free webinar coming up on
Oh yeah,
February.
tell us about that.
So, and that talk that kind of dives into the baby-led sleep approach,
Hmm.
and just talks about what it's about and how I implement it with families. So, with all the questions of like, what is it really? I know I've talked a lot about to you, but it's an hour of information about the approach as well as, of course, like questions I'm happy to answer with people that are interested in doing something alternatively, rather than sleep training.
And when is that happening?
That is February 6th at noon to 1.
Okay.
It's
Will that
Saturday.
be only live or will there be a replay option on that
Yeah.
or
So
okay.
I'm going to record it and I can send it to anyone who's signed up and um, who wasn't there. I'm happy to send it to them.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm so glad it's just been fun to catch up. It's really fun to catch up with you. We all are sort of in our isolated spaces and not getting to hang out in person during this
Yeah.
pandemic, but it it's a great opportunity that we all like know how to use Zoom now. So everybody knows what we're talking about when we at least say Zoom. So yeah, so you're gonna when I post this, this is gonna be the very first post under the parenting section of the Baby John blog that never existed before, but hopefully there's going to be more. I want to fill with more and more stories of how parents are figuring out things in ways that are encouraging for other people to hear, but also just some professional resources. So you're going to be our first professional resource on
Thank you.
that. So
That's awesome. Considering the times that building a village is so important.
yeah,
So having options right now, because I really feel for families,
yeah,
new families right now. I mean, I feel like there's positives to like now
mhm,
you can access so much more than just what's local to you. So
yeah,
that's wonderful. But of course, there's still like that barrier with building a village that you just can't call just anyone in at any time that's like close to you or, family, friend, or just some kind of support person. Some people are, kind of most people I think are keeping their circle small. So
yeah.
it's just a hard time in that way. So definitely having options.
Well, on that note, if anybody's watching this and you would like to nominate someone to be interviewed, and Marcella, you can also nominate people. You can let me know
Yeah.
that would have stories to tell or resources, because that's the whole idea behind this website is helping Philly families, but of course beyond now, because anybody can watch this, start to build their village by being encouraged by stories and being connected to resources. So building a little virtual village online.
Thank you,
So
Elizabeth. I
I'm
think
glad you're a part of this village. I'm
oh,
really so
me too.
happy to I'm happy to know you, and I'm happy to share you with other people.
Me too. I'm definitely excited about everything you're doing with Baby John. It's really cool.
All right. Well, everybody tune back in. We don't know what will be next, but this was an awesome start to our parenting section of Baby John. All right. Bye everybody.